So this is Buck Davis with Bimbox coming to you, joined by Brad Clark, one of the newest members of our team. He's the ATG product manager for Bimbox. So if you contact ATG, more than likely you'll get Brad on a phone call, and he'll give you a great spurs. Today we're going to be talking about when you need a laptop and a desktop, the performance differences, as well as slim laptops versus mobile workstations versus desktops. So Brad, I'm really happy to have you here. What is your favorite mix? Just to throw that out there.
Oh man, I mean, obviously, if I always had the run of the mill to pick whatever I wanted, I'd always want a slim laptop that I could take with me wherever I needed to be, to where I could be mobile. But then I would also want a desktop to where I could do all my heavy lifting, right? To where if I really needed to, and I was mobile, I could always remote into that system and handle all that heavy workload while I could still get from point A to point B and bounce around from day to day.
Most definitely. We always talk about user types, right? I think that's the biggest question people have when they come in is, especially after COVID, right? Because we all got scared and a lot of companies are worried, what if it happens again and everything shuts down and everyone has to go home, right? That's kind of that fear. I often think that there's a mix of that. I was talking to you before we got on here about when I was at Balfour Beatty Construction. They issued me a tower and they issued me a mobile workstation. That was standard for VDC managers and people in the BIM department across the board. Idea being is let's get the most productivity out of you when you're in the office, and then let's give you something that's strong enough to go out in the field and share that model or share that with Navisworks and be able to go remote and completely have the same or quote unquote be able to leverage the same tools as I could in the office. What was your experience at Clark?
Yeah, I mean, for Clark, and I think for a lot of people, most people really aren't given the ability to have both systems, right? And that was the scenario for me at Clark, right? I was one of the few that was fortunate enough to have both, but most of our people really were only given a laptop or a desktop. And so it kind of hinders you either one way or the other. But like you said, it really comes down to use cases and really understanding what the software is that you're using and how that utilizes hardware, right? So if we look at, our slimline laptops, a lot of people might initially think, hey, that's the best thing for me because I need to be mobile. Where if you take a deep dive into that and you ask, what software are you using? And it's, well, I'm just using primarily AutoCAD, right? That's probably going to be one of the worst moves for them to make because it really only uses one core out of your processor to do most of the work, which means you want something that has a higher clock speed. So you'll probably be better off going to a mobile workstation. And there's a ton of other scenarios through there. I mean, you can look at how portable do you actually have to be, right? Because a lot of times going to that mobile workstation is really the sweet spot of you need something like, you look at ATG's reality capture team. They all use the mobile workstations because, they need to be mobile, but they also need to be able to crunch all that data and do the registration. And they can't constantly ship that back and forth between a desktop and a laptop.
I think it's interesting because every now and then I'm sure you've heard this. Someone will call and go, I have to get a laptop. I have to be able to occasionally go mobile. And I'm always like to ask, what's occasionally? And they're like, well, I set my laptop up on my desk. I hook it to 3 monitors. I have a dock. I have all this stuff, keyboard and everything else. And maybe I go mobile once a month or, 5 days out of the month. And I always kind of laugh because that's a desktop, right? And then they need something to be mobile on. And with the remote software that we look at, you can remote into your desktop and have lower latency for files on the server, as well as have just as good an experience as long as you have good internet. That's the caveat there, which a lot of times on job sites you just don't have. I know when I was at Balfour, they issued me a tower and a laptop, and the idea there was we didn't have Wi-Fi on our job sites. Having said that, I didn't mind the bigger workstation because I would get down there, I'd set up in the trailer, I'd hook it up to the monitor, I would work there all day long, and then I'd pack it up, put it in my backpack, and go. So I understand there's going to be a lot of use cases. We have a lot of architects that get on planes, they work on planes, they are always moving from office to office, they have to be able to hook up to a monitor, and lugging around a mobile workstation isn't necessarily ideal for them. And in many instances, they're working early on a project where the model hasn't blown up. But we always get people that call us anytime one of our clients starts a new project, an owner, a GC. We'll always get a call and they'll say, well, we have like 3 or 4 people that are subcontractors that are working on our project. They just can't open the file. They don't have enough RAM. They don't have enough speed. They don't have anything they need, right? So that's when people come to us and ask, what is your take? I mean, if you had to be the best of both worlds, I like to say desktop and laptop. I know that's me being a caveat, and I was spoiled at the general contractor I work with. But when we run benchmarks on these systems, I mean, you'll see a 10 to 15% boost on a mobile workstation over a Slim. And I would say that's more light workflows. If you're doing reality capture, there's a big difference between those two based on the cooling you have and the amount of elongated processing you're going to be doing. Having said that, when we look at a laptop compared to a desktop, that's where you're getting that 25 to 35% boost. And that's on our systems. If you're looking at the difference between our desktop and a Dell workstation or a Lenovo mobile workstation, you're probably going to see 50 to 60% boost. And that's due to the fact, Brad, we do our direct ID lidding. We do a lot of things to keep this thing cool. And when you look at a super slim laptop, it just doesn't have cooling. So what is your opinion if you had to pick today? And this is just Brad Clark being Brad Clark. You're not on projects anymore. If you could have a mobile workstation with a desktop processor and a upgraded graphics card, or a Slim with a 3060, which way are you going today?
I mean, at this point, if I'm not on projects anymore, I would probably go with the Slim.
Yep.
Yep. And like I said, I think it really comes down to the use case, right? And really understanding what software it is that you're using, what the workload is, and even the size of the files really comes down to what type of hardware you should actually be selecting, because there are times, like we talked about, that going to a desktop and then having a slim client, like a lighter laptop to where you can remote in, is sometimes the best solution for that.
Awesome. Well, I think we've got great feedback for our clients. I think this is going to be really good. If you're watching this, hope you got some good information. If you're still not sure what you need, reach out to ATG, talk to Brad. Brad and his team are going to be able to help you out with whatever you need and help you figure out what you need to actually be really productive at your job. I think we can both agree, Brad, when you have a purpose-built system with the right amount of RAM, with the right amount of solid space drive, life becomes a lot easier. You stop having to worry about, how much space do I have? You stop worrying about, is this going to be able to run this program? And you stop having to worry about, do I have enough RAM? So I appreciate you jumping on with us. Once again, if you reach out to ATG, more than likely you're going to speak to Brad. He's got a wealth of knowledge, and he'll definitely dial in the system for you.
Thanks, Buck. I appreciate it.